Welcome to Legislative Updates. I'm your host, Doug Thompson, with my co-host, John Barker. Easy for me to say, isn't it? And John, you guys are just finishing up the 64th day, and it's a Friday. You guys have come in, and of course our guest today is Dan Hawkins from the 100th District out of Wichita. Yep. Dan, it's always good to have you here.
Nice to be here, Doug.
And you guys know the premise that John comes in, brings a guest, and you guys talk about the legislature, what's going on, so we get accurate information out and get it out very quickly. And so, John, what's going on this week?
Well, I'm just glad that our esteemed majority leader was able to come with us today. I had the privilege of having him sit on my Fed and State today and Monday, right?
Yeah,
Monday.
First time ever.
First time ever. Yep. We had a member that could not be there today and Monday. He had other appointments in Wichita, so the Speaker was kind enough to give me the majority leader to sit.
Pretty good.
He's first time I believe you've ever sat on Fed and State.
Yeah, I've never been there before.
Never been there before. And so we were able, and we can talk about that a little later. But, Doug, I'm glad to see that Abilene's still here and got home and going to enjoy the weekend. My wife tells me the Rotary are meeting every Friday now. They did not meet for a year, so that's positive. I'm glad to see the county commissioners lifted the mask mandate this week. Our numbers are going down. John Holstrom, the health department director, is doing a fantastic job as in that position as the health officer. So I think the city and the county is doing really well. I talked to the folks down in Marion County. Everything down there is looking good as far as COVID-19. And I also spoke to the folks over in Solomon and Harrington and of course Chapman. They still call me on occasion, although you're pro-temming for me. They still call me to sign a warrant every once in a while. But that's been a very positive week. We've met on the floor a few days. Dan's brought some cases or bills above the line. I've been really busy with committee work with this sports book bill that we'll talk about a little later. And then, of course, next week I'm going to the medical marijuana. And that's probably going to take 2 or 3 days if we get it out. Then I've got a few other bills that look like they are ready or ripe to be worked. So I think we're at day 64 out of 90. We've got until the 5th of April before we take our next break. I imagine we'll probably have committee meetings and on the floor more often. The last week we're always sitting on the floor every day, but we are on the floor.
We are.
We've brought all of our representatives that were in the balconies on the east and the west balconies down on the floor. They've got actual chairs now to sit in instead of sitting in the benches. And that's going to help our camaraderie among the members. So I'm glad to see that. But, Dan, did I miss anything here?
No, I do think, and you did a great job of what we've done so far this week, but I think one of the most important things just for the continuity of our house, bringing everybody back down on the floor, you could just see the difference in the people being able to sit side by side, talk, visit about the bills. There's a lot of things that go on when we're debating, and when you're spread out the way we were, it's hard for that to happen, and especially for our freshmen. They weren't getting some advice they probably needed. Now they're going to be close to more senior members, and they can ask some of those questions about what's going on. So truly, I think yesterday was a great day getting everybody back on the floor of the House.
And the disadvantage before is if they were in a balcony, if they had a question, we had a microphone up there.
Yeah.
But it's not the same as going to the well and asking your questions at the well where the entire membership is in front of you. We have to turn around and look at them.
Right.
So I would like to see in our committees we come back together also. Now that's a little bit more problematic because we've moved microphones out in those areas, so we're going to have the tech people come in and move them back to the tables. I would hope they would do that during our break, so to veto session, if we have committee meetings, we'll be back together.
Yeah. And you mentioned, of course, because it's so scattered out, some of them are up in what would be the gallery area. And I know when I visited up there and I asked the security guard, I said, can I holler at some of my friends down there? And he said, if you holler, you're out of here.
Yeah.
And that was, of course, before the virus. And started. I was only kidding, but I know what you're talking about. If you were a freshman and you were up at the gallery area, you would feel like I'm really not involved in this. I don't even feel like I'm participating, even though they are.
And the chairs are horrible up there because they're benches.
Yeah, I remember. It's like the old theaters.
If you have to sit there for 2 or 3 hours, it puts a strain on people.
Yeah,
So,
I agree. Well, we're going to cut away, take a break here in just a little bit, and when we come back, Dan, we're going to come to you. I want to see what's going on in Wichita and what's going on with the legislature, and I know you had a good time here working with John on committee. So we'll be right back. You're watching Legislative Updates. Welcome back to Legislative Updates. I'm your host, Doug Thompson, with my co-host, John Barker, and as you're watching your screen, that's John on your left. In between us is Dan Hawkins from the 100th District, which is Wichita. And I want to get to what's going on in Wichita and what you've been doing today. I want to ask John a couple of things here. John, you were mentioning about your district, of course, the 70th District, and in Abilene, which, of course, we held the meeting in Abilene, but it's representing all of Dickinson County.
Right.
And the county commissioners, of course, lifted the requirement for the mask.
Right.
They still encourage that if you feel comfortable wearing it, why wear it, but shouldn't have to wear it. And they relied upon the numbers that were dropping and those things. And I know that probably each of them have contacted you in the past about the virus and the restrictions and those things, and trying to be very proactive about when do we go back to pre-COVID-19 situations and the way life was before, and still be able to be safe. And
they're going back to the norm, pre-COVID norms. It will take a while, but I thought it was very good that they gave an option. If you feel comfortable wearing a mask in public or in businesses, you should wear it. If you feel comfortable without wearing a mask, it's not a mandate. And with the numbers going down, the number of folks that are getting the COVID shot, many of them have had the second shot, of course, there is an immunity there. And so, we may have reached the herd, what am I thinking about? Herd immunity. We've got all the older folks that are in nursing homes and senior living places. They've all had their vaccination, should they have chosen to take it. So I think it's a good move. I think the state's going to have to move to that. Other states have. Florida is a good example of that. Texas has. They had mask burning parties in Texas.
Is that right?
Yeah, at some of the local bars. People
I can imagine.
They spent a lot of money on masks, and they wanted to celebrate when Governor Abbott lifted it, and so they actually had. I saw it on the press where they were having mask burning parties.
I didn't see that.
So I think it's good. Yeah.
Well, what have you had any briefings going on about? Of course, you know what's going on at the border. And so people coming across, has there been any briefings, anything said about masses of people be locating in Kansas and where and all of those things?
Not in Kansas yet. Probably going to happen. In Texas, they're moving a number of them into Dallas area. They're going to use one of the sports arenas, indoor sports arenas, to start housing people. But it's a mess. It's a total mess. We're letting people who come across the border that are COVID positive, and we're releasing them. It's just, it doesn't make any sense. We've had more apprehensions in the last month than we've had in months, 100,000. It's crazy. And I'm not blaming the people coming.
Right, I understand.
We're sending the wrong message to them. Yeah. We're sending the message, we'll process you. But we can't process that many. And I've always been an advocate. Everybody that comes into this country legally, we fingerprint them. We can do a DNA. We have so many illegals. We have crimes that are committed, and we can't identify those folks.
Yeah, that's obviously going to be a problem. And then I worry, of course, you watch it on the news, but I worry about what happens to these little kids that are coming in here. And as they grow, or even the ones that are a little bit older, you get the sex trafficking and the drugs. And I guess time will tell how all of this plays out. But
I don't think it's going to play very positive.
No, I don't think so either.
One of the things that happens, and it happened, if you remember, several years ago, and it's probably been 5 or 6 years ago, when there was massive amount of refugees came in, and I can't actually remember what country they were coming from, but those refugees were spread all across the nation, and a lot of them came here, and that was during Sam Brownback's tenure, and he said, listen, we don't want all of those refugees here. I guarantee you this governor will not do that. This governor will she's probably already called the president and said, send all of them you can get to Kansas. Does that happen, or has it happened? No, probably not yet, but I would bet you she will bring quite a few of those people up here off the border.
And for a country of immigrants, which we are,
Yes.
and we've had legal immigration, that's what made this country great. But when you have illegal, where you don't know who's coming across the border, I was watching a story where they found caught 5 or 6 terrorists coming across from Yemen and coming across the southern borders.
Oh yeah.
And it's just it's a real problem. I don't know how to fix it, but one of the things they should do is send out a different message, like President Trump did. Don't come. If you come, you're going to be held on the other side of the border.
Right. Well, all right, Dan.
Well,
what have you been doing this week at the?
One of the things that happened this morning, and John alluded to it when he started the first segment there. He had the sports wagering bill up for debate in his committee. He had one member gone, and so I was lucky enough to be selected to fill in on his committee. My first time to ever be on the Federal and State Affairs Committee. It's a different committee. They deal with all of the really controversial stuff that goes on up there. I mean, if it's controversy, John's dealing with it. But it was really a pleasure for me because, back in Sedgwick County, where I'm from, we have not been able to have any type of gaming there because of the way the law was set. We had to take a vote, and Sedgwick County voted no, and so we couldn't even have the slot machines at the racetrack at that time. Well, I was able to present an amendment to his bill that he was working this morning to at least allow us to have a vote in Sedgwick County. And then, if the residents do approve it, then we will have an opportunity to see some gaming. We already have gaming there. We have a Wyandotte tribe that's just built a facility in Park City. So they used to say, we don't have gaming. We have gaming, but the state gets nothing from that. Now we're going to have an opportunity to be able to do it the right way to where the state can participate in the city.
Sedgwick County doesn't get anything.
No.
Okay, I want to cut away, take a break. We're going to be right back. You're watching Legislative Updates. Welcome back to Legislative Updates. I'm your host, Doug Thompson. Co-host John Barker is on the left on your screen. In between is Dan Hawkins from Wichita, the 100th District. And Dan, we were just talking about what you've been doing this week in the legislature. So go ahead.
Yeah, so we had talked about John's committee this morning. One of the biggest things that really happened this week, your listeners have heard many times about our debate going on about KEMA, or Kansas Emergency Management Act, and really being able to have their representatives, all of your listeners' representatives, have more of a say in all of these things that the governor has done in the past. All of her executive orders that she put out, mandates, all of those things. We finally finished the KEMA bill this week. It's passed both the House and the Senate, and it's at the governor's desk right now waiting for her to sign it. We do believe she'll sign it, and the reason why we think she'll sign it is because it was an overwhelming vote. In the House, it was somewhere around 115, 116 out of 125 voted for it, so it was big. In the Senate, I think it was like 38-1 or 39-1, something like that.
You'd be able to override the veto.
Yeah, so she won't veto that simply because she knows that it would be overridden, and she doesn't want to be overridden. So some of the pieces to that are very important for your listeners, and the reason why it took so long, when you have all these competing interests up there, and different ideas, it takes a while to meld those all together. And quite frankly, this one took a long time because it's such a contentious issue. The House and the Senate negotiators in our conference committee were really locked up for over a week. Yeah. And sometimes the debate in those conference committees got very fierce, very tenuous, and they worked their way through it. In the end, The leadership, the Senate President and the Speaker of the House came together, helped their negotiators get to a compromise, and the compromise that came out really is going to serve us well. Number one, on March 31st, all mandates end, all executive orders end. So all of these mandates that she's put out, they're going to go away. She cannot institute another executive or not another disaster declaration on COVID. She's done that several times. I think she's issued 3 or 4 disaster declarations on COVID. This puts actually stops that. There shouldn't be any more executive orders. It also extends the disaster declaration clear out to the end of May. So that'll give us plenty of time to see how this thing winds down. In the future, if she decides if we were to have another pandemic or COVID were to heat back up in the fall and she had to do something, it will have to come to either the legislature or the Legislative Coordinating Council. So we have a body of, now it's going to be 8. It used to be 7. It's going to include all of the leadership from both House and Senate. And any executive orders that she would try to promulgate, it would come before us, we would review it, and if we don't think it's necessary, then we can stop it. We can stop her from doing that. We didn't have that ability before. She really had total control over what she did. It also places limits on who can do what. So, our health officers in all of these counties, the state health officer had actually a lot of power that nobody really knew that they had. The health officers in the counties could issue orders, and when this started, nobody could stop those orders. And then we put House Bill 2616 into effect that put some limits, giving the county commissioners the ability to override. On this new statute, it's not going to be the county commissioners overriding, it's going to be the county commissioners have to approve. So they have to take an affirmative vote to have that health order go into effect. So it really puts more onus on them that they're going to have to really make sure that they're doing what's right. They're not going to be able to just rely on the county health officer and just say, do what you want. Now they have to approve it. Okay. So there's a lot of good things that's come out of this. Schools, only local school districts can shut down schools now. Before, the governor did, the State Board of Education did. Now it's the local school districts have to make that decision. So we've really put the decision making down to the lowest level, the people, the government closest to the people to make those decisions, which I always think that's the right way to do. So KEMA is a big deal. It's passed. We're waiting for it to go into to be signed and then go into effect, and then people will see a lot of this stuff go away.
I like the idea of how you've handled that, because then it comes back to those people who are elected by the people.
Absolutely.
Are making those decisions as opposed to in an administrative situation. And certainly in that, the health officer, of course, going to have input and say, here's what I think and here's why. But I certainly like the idea that those that are elected are making those decisions.
We would probably get, and I'm sure John would concur with this, I would get hundreds of emails a week just on this Emergency Management Act and asking us, let's really pare back what the governor can do. But the governor still has to have some ability. They have to be nimble. If a tornado happens, they have to react. If a big not forest, but a range fire happens, they're going to have to react. Floods, they're going to have to react. But when it comes to something big like we just have went through, there needs to be more than just one person making those decisions. The representatives of the people need to be a part of that.
Yeah, I would agree with you. What do you have coming up next week?
Next week, we're going to probably see maybe towards the end of the week the budget hit our floor. That's going to be our really next big task from the standpoint of what we have to do. The budget committee, the appropriations committee has worked all week this week preparing. It'll take them a while to actually have a document that big produced and have on each one of our desks. But I would say probably by Thursday or Friday we'll be starting to look at the budget.
Well, I'm sure that'll be a lot to deal with. We're going to cut away, take our final break. We'll be right back. You're watching Legislative Updates. Welcome back to Legislative Updates. I'm your host, Doug Thompson, co-host John Barker. On the left on your screen in between is Dan Hawkins from the 100th District in Wichita. Thank you guys for being here first off. And we'll put up on the screen the contact information for each of you so that those who are the viewers of this may be able to say, well, I have some further questions on this point or that point, and they'll have the opportunity to make contact with you. And I know you guys do an awesome job staying in contact with the people within your community and outside of your
Absolutely.
community, because there's a lot of questions and you guys do a good job with it. Thank you for taking time. Come in on a Friday. I know it's been a long week, and stop in here and give us legislative updates. Thank you for watching. We will see you next time on Legislative Updates. Thanks for watching.